in presence, very open to spiritual communication, and I feel in my body what the person feels.
Yeah.
And I can do it verbally, but not the way that I can with hands-on.
Okay.
Hands-on is amazing. So emotional release is the most beautiful gift of healing in the world, because you cry hysterically. You feel like you've been beaten up. You are exhausted. By the time you get off that table, you feel like you've been run through the ringer. You're completely exhausted, but you wake up the next day like a new person. And the thing I love about tears, laughter does this too, so does yelling, so does coughing, but tears are a physical manifestation of pain leaving your body. You cannot put the tears back in.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Important.
So
yeah.
when it happens, you're making room to be refilled. That's why I like my hands there, because then I can do the Reiki. I can refill that part that's just been cleaned out with something very loving, instead of those years of torture and pain and sadness and self-sabotage. Now you walk out and it's been filled, and then you go home and you sleep because you feel like a rag doll, like nothing's even functioning properly after that, and then you wake up and you're like a new person. And that's what I love about emotional release. To me, you're only going to get that kind of massive release once. You might get it again off somebody, but generally you can't plan it. I've had people call me because their friend had an emotional release, and they call me with that intention, and I say, the chances of that pulling off like that are slim to none if you're making a plan for it. It's really hard to okay, I'm going to schedule that I'm going to have this huge emotional release today. Unless you're already in it or it's completely random, it's very difficult to pull. I mean, you're pulling.
Oh, well, that's what I was curious, is how clients come to you, or what resources you would be able to provide, because I know you have a download of some, what is it, that intrapersonal therapy and different resources that are available for people.
Yeah. Oh, there's all kinds of resources. I just think that kind of authentic healing it's rare. It's beautiful. It's amazing. I happen to be. It's one of my gifts when it happens. It doesn't mean that I can guarantee it's going to happen. Now, generally, I'm blessed that some oncologists here in Atlanta do send me some clients that are just starting chemotherapy. They're going to have an emotional release. I mean, you know it, they know it. They come here knowing that because they're going through the biggest crisis of their life. They're gonna have the release. It's not a question. But otherwise, it's not generally something that you can just plan ahead for. It's an incredible gift. Most of the time, if I have that intense, I won't let people pay. They can make an appointment, and then all of a sudden I'll hear spirit go, not this one. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Not saying that I just run around doing free work, although I would prefer it. I would very much prefer not to take any kind of money for any kind of healing work. I think it's a higher level when you don't. It's just, sometimes we have to exchange for the time.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. That's important. Now, in your book, Anxiety Sucks, are there some steps? Do this, do that, do the other thing that a person is dealing with anxiety? There
are breathing techniques. I do a whole chapter on breathing. I do a chapter on the levels of severity of anxiety. I do a chapter on body symptoms, what's twitching. I do another chapter on numbing, different things that you can distract your mind with, and also understanding. Here's the thing that I have come to in my understanding with anxiety. We tend to tell everybody that you have to get to the root cause of something. That's true, but that's only to be able to analyze where it came from. That doesn't mean you heal because you now understand the source. What we have to learn is not just the root of something, then we have to learn how to apply the information gained into our lives to make a healing occur.
That's
we
huge.
cannot just analyze something and go, okay, you've got to get to the root of this. Well, what do you do with that? Okay, so now I've got the reason where it came from, but what does that change? Just knowledge, but, it's not just point A to point B. And I think I spent years going to all these different healers, and that's all they would talk about with me. And I knew exactly where it came from. I'm a textbook open and shut case. Just because I'm textbook and it's easy to figure me out doesn't mean that it makes me feel any better. It doesn't mean that the anxiety lightens up. It doesn't. It's understanding what to do with that kind of information. And each person has different triggers, and they have different ways to release. For a lot of people, I find that knowing that you are not the only person that has that body symptom. I used to get numbing in the face, and that would freak me out. And I never met anybody that would get it. And then all of a sudden, this girl at a Christmas party confides in me, and I hadn't confided in her. She said, oh, I just came up the stairs, and I have a numb face. I get really anxious. It was like she just handed me like a tunnel to God directly, because it felt so incredible to know that somebody in the world had the same symptoms as me, and I wasn't as nuts as I thought.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean, and it did change it. When I would get that, I would think about her every time and realize I'm not alone. And I do think that's a huge part, because anxiety is lonely, it's scary, it's isolating, it's vulnerable, it's heartbreaking, it's worrisome. You know, all you think about is what's wrong with me, and then you're not available to anybody else. So you're a parent, you're a lover, you've got all these things, and you just start pushing people further and further away because they cannot possibly understand. And all you're thinking about is what's wrong with me, what's my problem. You know, I have a client.
Isolated.
Yes, I have a client who comes to me and he says he thinks that we're twin souls because I completely understand his anxiety. And he says to me, I'm convinced that something's wrong with me, but just nobody's found it out yet. I'm convinced that, and I know that affirmatively that's a terrible thing to say. But you know what? It is. It's a terrible thing, and on one side you can say, well, then you're going to create it. But on the other side, at least he can be honest about it. At least he can come to me and go, this is how I feel, and I don't just jump into my, oh, you know, that's not a good statement, because then he's still going to feel that way. He's just not going to be honest anymore. And if you're actually honest about it, you can start changing it.
There you go. Oh, that's important.
You see what I mean? This is all it's very touchy of figuring out, because what I've found through my years of going to different people is that a lot of people, not meaning to, have played me like a puppet, because I gave them rule over my opinions. Their opinions mattered more than my own. I gave them jurisdiction on my own thoughts. They curbed my thoughts. They curbed my behavioral patterns. And they didn't mean to, but I would go to them for healing, and so they became a resource more important than myself. And so even though I understand, you know, how to speak, and I write articles on changing your speech to yourself, it doesn't mean that I would ever stop somebody from letting them speak what they feel. Because if you do and you start changing, you're judging them, and then, boom, they're isolated even more.
Oh, ow. Now, on your website, and I guess there's a couple of them that we would want people to know about, because these would be some of the ways that they could find some of your resources, right? Yes. Okay. Now I love the name of one of your websites, folks. You're going to love this: www.anxietysucks.net. Okay, that one you just got to like that. There's no doubt about it. And then another one. This one is quite beautiful, and folks, you got to go to this website just to see the photo of Dr. Emily there.
My friend Michael Colley painted that thing behind me.
And that's, you beautiful. Said Shiva?
That is Lakshmi.
Lakshmi, rather. Thank you.
Lakshmi is the painting. Yep.
Yeah.
Lakshmi is for abundance, the flow of prosperity.
Okay, and is that in your home, in your office?
I do. You know what? I only have a copy of it on my CD. I actually should own that thing, because he's got it on canvas. It's beautiful. Yeah. 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 So, folks, if you go, have to tell him so.
Yeah, exactly. Hey,
have a picture.
www.spiritwavehealing.com. And that's where there's more resources and the ability to blog there with Emily. And
yes, and I have 2 CDs out, actually. I have a new one. It's a morning and an evening affirmation meditation CD for anxiety. It's called Create Your Day, Celebrate Your Night. The nighttime one, obviously, is to help you sleep, to help you get into a better space within yourself and release the day, because the day is done. And the morning one, I actually did in one take without a script. I asked Spirit to just guide me and take me through. And it's a beautiful way. You can just listen to it while you're getting ready for the day. But it's just a better way to create your highest intentions and your best attitude before you even leave the house. So I love it. I love my Come Into Being CD, but this morning and night is like, it's everything that I wish that I could really help people with all the time. I listen to it myself, and I don't criticize it when I listen to it because I love what